Today I'm going to tie a little damsel fly pattern I'm experimenting with. It's a takeoff of the Hot Head Damsel, but I'm going to call it the Hot Eye Damsel, using these bright fluorescent orange bead chain for the eyes instead of a bead head. The main difference, got a few other material differences, but using 140 Vivus for the thread and olive. So I'm just going to start my thread up at the front here, trim off the extra, and the first step is going to be to put on our eyes. I'm going to do this one so that it rides hook point down, the same as a bead head fly would. So, and then I want to leave a bead length of space in front of the eyes too, so kind of like I would do on a streamer pattern where I would have the eyes on the bottom. I start them kind of on the top ish and then swing them down under. It's just easier, that way you don't have to flip your hook upside down just to get the thread started. I'm just going to do some figure 8 wraps, get these roughly well secured. Check and make sure they're even. And I'll take my thread to the back of the hook where the bend starts. I'm also going to go ahead, these eyes tend to have a little bit of a burr on the chain connecting the beads, so just taking a file, kind of trying to knock that burr off so I don't cut my thread later. There you go. And it doesn't really, I mean, it sands it down a little bit, but it also just tends to knock off that piece there. So nice and clean. The tail, I'm using grizzly marabou in olive. It's a naturally grizzled feather, not painted, but it's as you can see, it's a pretty small piece of marabou, and this is a size 10 hook we're using, nymph hook. So a smaller feather, so it's a different type of marabou, but I want the tail to be at least a hook shank long. You can kind of just give whatever the feather will give you on this, so I'm probably going to end up doing it slightly longer than the hook shank. Tie it in at the back, a couple wraps, tighten it up, and I like to hold that feather on top of the hook as it's my non-thread hand, and then wrap over it with the thread all the way to behind the eye, and do a couple wraps there. Trim out my stem. Then I'll go back to the bend of the hook. This feather has some gnarly twist to it, but I'm thinking when it gets wet it'll just lay back straight. So there we go. Then for the body, I'm going to use this Simplify straggle string. It's a cool little product. It's basically just a really small polar chenille type chenille with a thin cord base. Trying to get a good piece here. So it's not a very thick string, and then also it's not super long on the flashy parts, so it's kind of subtle, and then it also just, I mean, the color of the string base will give you the color of your body, but then you just have a little bit of sparkle coming off. It's not over the top, but it gives a nice low profile. So I'm just going to tie it in at the base. Make sure you get the actual cord when you tie it in, not just one of the pieces of flash. Wrap my thread forward. And then I'm just going to palmer this in tight touching turns all the way to the front to behind the eyes. And I'm swooping back the flash each time, and then I'll just make sure you do it real tight, so kind of pull all the stretch out of the base material, the cord, as you go. One more there. Go ahead and tie it off right behind the eye. A couple loose ones. Really pull down on it. Go ahead and trim this off close. That's the body. And then true to the original pattern, I am going to do a chartreuse partridge. I've just got a bag of partridge feathers here, dyed chartreuse. They still have the barring of the partridge. So try to pick a good one. By good one, I mean it's got nice even barring. The feathers, the barbules are all straight and even, unbroken off. And then I'm going to tie it in by the tip, so strip down and get the longer ones below the tip kind of coming down, and then the ones where I'm tying up. So I'm going to tie it in at this point right here. So the reason you sweep the ones down is really just to get them out of your way. You'll tie it in here, and then you'll clip this part off. So placing it down on top of the hook, placing that gap that I created right down where my thread is, and then I'm going to put 3 turns right in that one spot, and then pull down pretty tight. I mean, you want to pull down, this stuff can slip out, but the tighter you pull down right here, the better chance you have of it not slipping out. And then I'm going to trim off that extra. And then I've got some hackle grabbers. I'm going to take the grabbers and grab the tip like that, and then keep these barbs running perpendicular to the hook shank, and I'm just going to palmer. Probably just get 2 full wraps here, so that's about 1. I'm going to come up and hold my hackle plier hand like I got it, and then come from underneath with my thread in just the same exact tie-in position. Thread hasn't moved since I tied the feather in. I'm just going to go 1, 2 down, 3, again pull down pretty tight. Then I'm going to bend this stem back a little bit so I can get in with my scissors and try and just nip this stem off. I don't want to nip any of the feather fibers. Just like that. Keep pressure on my thread. You can kind of sweep some of these back. It's going to look a little unruly, but I like to sweep them back and then do a couple more turns right there, tight. So it looks kind of wild, but we're going to put a dubbing head on this guy. So I'm going to dub my thread and then do a couple turns behind the eyes, and then cover up the space between the eyes, then put a little nose on him there. So go ahead, put a little bit of wax on the thread, never hurts. Just helps that dubbing get on a little better. And then the dubbing I'm using is just an olive colored hare's ear. So I'm just looking for kind of a drab, just regular nymph dubbing here. Pull out a little piece like this. Then key to this stuff, the less you can grab a little pinch like this, the easier it is to dub. If you took this whole thing and tried to twist it on your thread, it's just like gonna mash around and not go on. But if you can get a little wisp like this, just take it with your fingers, take your thread, and then just kind of put it on it, and then twist like this, twist it on. So I'm going to build a little noodle like that, probably 1.5 inches, almost a couple inches long. So twist on one little clump, grab another little clump, twist that on, repeat a few times till you get the noodle as long as you want it. And since we're going to go around the eyes a couple times, it might need to be a little bit longer than you think for the amount of hook shank that we're going to cover. More piece down here. Alright, so I've got my dubbing noodle. So I'm going to go basically one behind the eye, and you can see that helped to push the partridge back a little bit, and then kind of hard to see what I'm doing when I'm going to show you, but I'm going to do some more figure 8 wraps just to cover this space between the eyes. So I'm going to go over and then down in front, then over, and then I'm going to go back behind the eyes again, and I'm going to see, and this embroidery vise helps, back behind. You also want to cover up the space underneath the eyes too, so get a turn in here, maybe go back behind them one more time, then bring my thread in front, and look, I've just run out of dubbing, but it's perfect because I've already got all the space on top and below the eyes covered. Then I can just go ahead and do a couple wraps right behind the eye, and then I'll do a 4-turn whip finish, and that is going to be it. Pull down real tight, snip the thread. You can put a little head cement on, but that is it. Yeah, slender little pattern. I like the eyes. Well, I like the bead, but now even better with the eyes because there's two. I think it's just a general attractor, especially for warm water fish species, panfish, bass. But it also helps me see it in the water. So if we're not fishing the clearest waters down here in Louisiana, these eyes will really stick out in the water, and I'm watching the fly as I retrieve it, and then if I see the orange and then all of a sudden no orange, I know it's probably in a fish's mouth, and I can set the hook. And I can't tell you how many times I've caught fish not even feeling a pull, but just seeing the orange disappear. And I like to fish these damsel patterns with very quick short strips. If you do like little strip, it really makes these tails kick, and that's how a damselfly nymph swims. So if you fish this in that manner along some submerged vegetation, it should do a pretty good job of imitating the natural. So try one out. Like I said, this is kind of a different variant. I just came into some of this orange bead chain, so hope to give it a try soon. Try one out for yourself, see if it works. Thanks for watching.